Please take a seat. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. Thank you all for coming and for choosing me over the long weekend. It's a pleasure to be here again. I want to repeat what the previous speaker said. I want to welcome each and every one of you, and especially the Consul General of the Republic of Kosovo. I say especially because for a Muslim nation to adopt the IRA definition of anti-Semitism and inspire the Global Imams Council to become the first Imams Council in the world to do the same. This happened in October 2020, so I thank you all very much for paving the way for us. And it has become one of our key missions to advocate for the adoption of the IRA definition against of anti-Semitism. So thank you all very, very much. Usually when I visit Jewish communities, not only do I feel at home, I would like to make the most out of it. So I will try and get as much ground covered as possible, but I would also like to remind you that I'm not an entertainer, and I would like to see each and every one of you after tonight being equipped with the tools necessary to combat anti-Semitism, especially the anti-Semitism that comes from the Islamist side of the world. In the beginning, we need to first get an idea of what anti-Semitism is, the many layers of it, and how we look at it when we are dealing with it. Again, how we look at anti-Semitism when we are dealing with it. When you are faced with an anti-Semitic statement, there's much more behind it, my dear friends. You will have the anti-Semite that ignores Jews, doesn't have the time to go after them, ignores their presence, does not like them, but would rather prefer someone else go and target them. Then you have the second level of anti-Semitism, and that is people who hate Jews because they are Jews. But again, they do nothing about it. They won't even like a post or retweet it. They just hate, and that hate lives within them. Their silence assists those who carry out the attacks. The third level of anti-Semitism is the group that hates but does not attack. So they will try to ban you from building a synagogue in the area, they will try to cancel events at university, they will try to bring you down, but they are not violent physically. But they do not condemn those who are physically violent. The fourth stage is where you have the anti-Semite that endorses violence against Jews. However, they will use terms such as just and appropriate. We need to always make it very clear that justice in one person's eyes is different than justice in our eyes, and therefore the scale upon which this should be measured is the law. Do you support this lawfully, or do you apply justice in whichever way you interpret it? You have this level of anti-Semitism. Then comes the more common level of anti-Semitism, in which Jews are targeted, are attacked, are struck. And these levels continue. The level after this would be to drive Jews out of society. That's what happened in Iraq, in my home country. The Farhud, where Jews were driven out of their communities, their homes, their belongings, all stolen. This was the mistake that our forefathers committed. And by that, they destroyed a very important part of society. Iraq is not the only country. The majority of Arab countries and Muslim societies fell in this category of anti-Semitism, which is not only do they hate, not only do they attack, they wish to drive Jews out of society. Meaning what? Jews can exist somewhere else. Then you have a level of anti-Semitism which is total annihilation. This is where I would classify Hitler and Khomeini and Khamenei and Hezbollah and Hamas and the IRGC and these groups of terrorists, where they want no Jews to exist. They want to annihilate all of them. Why it's very important for us to point this out in this format? Because many people unknowingly can jump straight to number 6. For example, someone might be concerned about human rights. They'll think there are human rights violations happening in the West Bank. Up until now, they're expressing their opinions and we can have a civil, intellectual discussion with them, whether there are or there are no human rights violations by whichever party. But when they start to chant from the river to the sea, this becomes exactly what Hitler wants, to annihilate an entire group of people. When dealing with anti-Semitism, and when a statement is thrown at Jewish people, immediately, this is my advice, the first 10 seconds, try to categorize where in these levels of anti-Semitism does this fall? Does this person want my total annihilation? Or do they just hate me and want me away from them? Which, to be honest, I don't want to be near them either. After we have a brief understanding of these levels of anti-Semitism, we search for a solution. Is there a solution for this anti-Semitism or no? Is there hope or no? In a minute, I'm going to ask the organizers to play a video clip. But before we do that, I want to tell you something about this clip. This is a clip of me in the year 2012, when I was still a fundamentalist, extremist, and an anti-Semite. And I was an anti-Semite not because of politics, but because of religious training, because of ideology. I felt that it was what God wanted me to be. And I would campaign and lecture throughout Australia and Canada, mainly Ottawa, up until 2012, in the same manner, blaming everything evil on Jews. But how did I change? Many people deserve credit. I'm writing a book about this, which hopefully it will be out next year. But very briefly, I've spoken about this before. A Jewish man was once kind to me when my vehicle broke down on the Hume Highway in Melbourne. And he dressed in a way that I could identify him as a Jewish man. His name was Norman. He helped me on that night. That was the first ever time that I came in contact face to face with a Jewish man. In 2014-15, when ISIS took over parts of Iraq and my uncle Faris was killed, I decided to speak out against extremists. But I was still an anti-Semite. I'm just against ISIS at this point. But I believed that ISIS was an Israeli invention. When I began criticizing the extremists, I found myself in the middle of serious pushback. All of a sudden, I was classified as an Islamophobe. Oh, that's right, ISIS are Muslim. So how do we deal with this problem? The only organization that publicly supported me in my campaign against ISIS sympathizers in Australia was the Australian Jewish Association. Why? Because they have history. They know exactly what's going on. They know the games being played by the media and the politicians and the police. 7 decades is a lot of time. So they stood by me. Then came an invitation to join a gala. Guess where? Chabad, Sydney. Chabad rabbis see me in there, and they're like, this is going to be... I don't know what they were thinking, but they decided to change me as a person that very night. I walk in there at 7 p.m. I leave the event at around 9:30, and the rabbi won't stop texting me until 2 a.m. I'm praying for you, don't forget. And it was the manners and ethics of Chabad Sydney that didn't make me who I am today, but they made me stop hating Jews. And they took me out of that bubble of skepticism. I stopped justifying everything that the extremists did against Israelis. I started to see Jews as equals. A rabbi, when he speaks, I'm a cleric, he's a cleric. The reasoning, the rationality, how they formulate their arguments. I begin to see myself sitting in front of a teacher who deserves respect, who is not empty, who has history, and who can prove it. And a matter of fact, the rabbis would speak to me in a way, and I would realize that this is exactly what Islam wants. Monotheism, the respect of all prophets. These people are not pigs, they're not monkeys, they don't have tails. This nonsense that we were raised with. Then I traveled to New York for a visit, and I met a wonderful rabbi, Rabbi Eli Abadi, who is now the senior rabbi in the UAE. Rabbi Abadi had great impact on me. Why? Because he spoke Arabic and he understood our culture. Many factors. Then comes the Jewish community in Canada. CCAT, the Canadian Coalition Against Terror. When I started to meet with victims of terrorism, I began to realize the damage terrorism does. And slowly, I changed as a person. But when I did change, I did one thing that I regret. I went back to all of my videos and archives and I deleted them all. I did not want to be that old person ever again. But one day I'm going through my desktop and I find this lecture, and something in my gut tells me, yes, you're ashamed, yes, you've changed, yes, that is the old you, but don't delete it. One day, you can show people how you were and what happened to you today. And that could give people hope that someone can shift from that to this. Please, let's play it. In this clip, you'll see that how I speak about Jews, I mention Zionism. We were trained to speak. Imams and clerics are trained to speak, and we're trained to speak in a way that is convincing. This is why the Iranian regime hates me. They spent on me, and they invested in me, and now I'm doing the same against them. We we're trained to speak in a certain way that in 10-15 minutes we can turn a vulnerable Muslim youth mind to becoming whatever we wanted them to become. And you'll find many incidents in history. Oh, not too far, 2015, here's an incident. Farhad Jabbar, a 14-year-old in Australia, attended 2 Friday sermons, picked up a gun and went and shot a police officer called Curtis Cheng. 45 minutes each session. All it took was 2 sermons. Now thank God we were not like that. But when I used to say Zionism, I meant to blame everything the Israeli government did on each and every Jew, even if they had nothing to do with the Israeli government. When I meant Zionism, I meant a global conspiracy that all our governments are connected to. And you will hear that I did not in any way present Jews as another evil. It's not like there are many forms of evil and Jews were one of those evils. No. In the form of anti-Semitism that I had, that I was suffering from, Jews were the evil on this planet. That's what we were raised with. When the clip plays, you'll see the old me.
Came to be the Imam. Number 2, Zionism has a hand in everything that demolishes the foundations of Islam. Anything you see wants to attack Tawhid, wants to attack Nubuwwah, wants to attack Imamah, you understand there has to be a way. Otherwise, if Imamah was there, what threat would it bring? It would bring no one threat except to the oppressor, except to the tyrant, except to the person that does not want people to live a free life.
Right, so Tawheed means monotheism. Imamah means the succession of prophethood, which is Nubuwwah. And I can guarantee not a single Jew here knew what on earth I was talking about, but they were being blamed for it. What is he talking about? I'm here talking about Jews attacking Tawheed, which is monotheism. But Jews were monotheists when our forefathers were drinking wine and worshipping idols made out of wood and stone and dates. And so on and so forth. This form of anti-Semitism was extremely dangerous. Why? Because it comes in a religious context. There's a political context, there's a humanitarian context, but this is religious. This means you're against God and God's against you, and in order for me to make it to heaven, I have to side with God and against you. This form of anti-Semitism is what people have in their minds when they go out and blow themselves. It's this form of anti-Semitism. Well, I thank God that I developed as a person and as a human being. The last few years, we've been combating the same hatred that we used to preach. And why we do it best is because we know exactly what can demolish these arguments. This and its likes. From here onwards in this speech, I really want you to pay attention and take your phones out and take notes. Make points if you like. I'm going to be giving you some verses, just numbers. When you leave from here today, you'll be able to walk out a proud Jew who has in their toolbox the answers they need to demolish any Islamist argument against the Jews and their homeland. Thank you. There's been some development, especially in the online world. And the main reason why the extremists hate me more than they hate other Imams who have relations with the Jewish people is because I know how to tweet. And I know how to use social media. And I know when to fire a tweet, and I know how to go viral. And this really hurts. It hurts big time. And in social media today, there are new apps, one of them being Clubhouse. And Clubhouse is taking over much of the social media presence, to the point that, as you know, Twitter introduced Twitter Spaces and the Green Room for Spotify. And the fact that you can speak in a room, the app humanizes you. You're no longer typing 140 letters or making a post. You're coming with your voice, with your presence, with your context, and you're emptying yourself into a room with hundreds and thousands of people. And I saw that on that app, Jewish people were being targeted by extremist Muslims, but the responses were totally different from what the Islamist is pleading and what the Islamist is arguing. When he comes into a room and says, "You Jewish occupier," how do you respond to that? You say, "Oh, but the Oslo Declaration and the borders, and you were offered many opportunities to set up a state and you decided not to." You talk like that. That's the basic, taking out the facts. An Arab says, "Occupied what? This is our land. This is Arabia. Next to it is Judea. Where did you Palestinians come from? The Romans or the Turks? What are you talking about?" See, here's the difference. And when they respond, we say, "Why are you insulting the people who fed you for 7 decades? It changes, the argument changes. How you respond doesn't mean you're responding to the person who said what he said to you. Whenever you are faced with an anti-Semitic attack, always remember that your response has to be to the people listening. Because if you fail to change the person you're speaking to, you have to make sure that they do not convince the listeners. The response needs to take into account who's listening. So I now have a mission of making sure that the Islamists do not have an argument that passes by as fact, because it's not fact. In the beginning, we must condemn the attacks that have been happening in Israel against Jewish people, and the support that is for it in the West by the sympathizers of these terrorists. Whenever the idea of Jews and Jewish existence and Jewish homeland is presented, all Jews, and this is my advice, take it from me, stop and say, "Hang on, what context are you talking in?" When you say Israel and the Palestinians, what context before we proceed? You're looking at it from a humanitarian context, from a political context, from a religious context? Pick a single subject, and then I'll engage with you. Because what they do is this. Part of anti-Semitism is that you can never really grasp a single thing they say. They'll come to you with baby killer, boom, that's humanitarian. Then they say you stole land, what is that? That's political. Right? Then they'll come up with, you're going to hide behind trees one day, as though they haven't heard of the Iron Dome. The religious arguments come next. Firstly is for you to understand, how do you respond? If it's a humanitarian issue, take a look at how many people die when Hamas fires rockets and those rockets do not land anywhere but Gaza. If your argument is humanitarian, let's look at both sides. They'll run away from both sides because they know what Hamas does to the Palestinians. If you say your argument is political, then let's talk politics. You'll find out that the Palestinian rulers, the Arabs in general, the entire Muslim society, was heading to a direction where they knew that the Palestinians were wrong, that Hamas was a terrorist entity, but they fueled this anti-Semitism regardless. And now the same politics in the same countries, the Abraham Accords. Who would believe it? In 2018, when I would say, there will come a day, believe you me, this is politics, there will come a day where these rulers will normalize relations with Israel. They will accept you as a neighbor. People looked at me as though I'm crazy, I'm doing lip service, selling you empty hope. Yet see how fast it happened. And it will expand and grow. These are the same people who sided with the Jew killers are now siding with the Israelis and with the Jews. Then you have the religious argument. The same muftis who would curse Jews in Mecca on microphone are now refraining from doing so. And they're banning any association with the extremists. Canada has not banned the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas from operating here under different incorporations, but the UAE has, Saudi Arabia has, Bahrain has. How on earth do you explain to the Canadian government that, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You're waiting for another Canadian version of Ilhan Omar here? What are you waiting for? Here are the arguments I want you to have ready on hand. Put it in a notes on your phone. Whenever you are faced with an extremist, you have a response for everything. Why? Because your only source is the Holy Quran. You don't need to worry about anything else. Your only source to defeating Islamist anti-Semitism is the Holy Quran. End of story. When a Muslim extremist comes to you and says, but you Jews have no land. You have no land, you came from Europe. You say, hang on, why are you ignoring your Lord? International law means nothing to you. I mean, it organizes your life on a day-to-day basis, but the ultimate law is God's word. Note this down, chapter 5, verses 20. Chapter 5 being Al-Ma'idah, verse 20 onwards. You know what this is? This is something every Jew should have handy. This is your land title. In these verses, God Almighty tells the Jews and their prophet Moses, take your people and go to Jerusalem and never leave it. You're not allowed to leave. That's what I've assigned for you. It's written for you. Who says? God says so. And what do the Jews say? The Jews say the same thing. The Jews are not telling us that we want Mecca and Medina. They want what God gave them. Chapter 5, 20 onwards. Then comes the argument of, but Jews were exiled. How do you respond to that? When yes, Jews say Jews were exiled. The response to that, my friends, is that only those Jews, that's what the Quran says, only those Jews who refused to enter the land, they were exiled. For how long? 40 years. It's been well over 40 years since Moses was around. But you're living in the past. These verses 520 onwards is everything you need moving forward. It proves your land title. Once you prove your land title, all the nonsense begins to fade away. Then comes the personal attacks. Now they've left the land. You've established, see, your book says my land is here. Then come the personal attacks. But you are the children of apes and pigs. This is where you have to become an Imam Tawhidi, you know. Bit of humor and say, oh, so you believe in evolution now. So you're no longer believing that God created us the way He did, but we evolve now. Are we really now following Darwin now? This is when they realize that their entire foundation is not only weak, it's ridiculous to mention. It's either that the Jews that we have today evolved from apes, so go follow Darwin, go Imam Darwin, and go pray behind him and his school of thought. Why isn't he not a saint? Or the Jews were never pigs or turned into pigs and monkeys. Pick one. Pick one. And so on and so forth. Of course, in depth and detail will be in my book, and my books are free, I'm not marketing. Next year, hopefully we can do a launch with the United Grassroots, our friends here. The solution to anti-Semitism in society is number one. Jews need to understand that this is a Jewish challenge. I am more than willing and happy, like many of my Muslim brothers, we're more than willing and happy to side with you at any time. But the force has to come from you. And that can only happen if you're united. If you're united, and here is where I say, please don't argue in public. Please don't fight each other in public. You know, when Imam Tawhidi is being invited to an event, I get told, don't go here, go there, this synagogue is better than that synagogue. And I'm like, I don't know, where do I go? I love you all. So I just accept. One, unity. Secondly, be careful with who you associate yourself with from the Muslim world. Just because a Muslim says something right, it does not mean that the Jewish people should rally around them. A Miss Universe, an Instagram model. Why? Because this problem can only be solved by clerics. Islamist anti-Semitism from the inside of the Muslim world can only be solved by clerics because it came from clerics. It came with fatwas. But the general Muslim population, even the skeptics, who are 50 on your side, 50 on the Islamist side, see that the Jewish people are now platforming figures that violate Islamic law. Let's not go too deep. Publicly. They'll say, you know what? I'd rather stay with the religious fanatics than with the, for example, models and so on. And there's nothing wrong with being a model. But it's just how you present your cause is very important, because your ultimate goal is people who live in the Middle East, people who live around Mecca and Medina. The more you present yourself as the authentic Jewish follower of Jewish law, follower of the Jewish religion that Muhammad respected and the Jewish prophets, the more influence you will have on the religious, because you need religious people to side with you. This is the end goal. You need allies that stand with you. The Global Imams Council, 1,350 plus Imams. I was a regular member. I said to myself, I'm going to run in this election for vice president. Let's see what happens. You know, if I lose, I've got nothing to lose. I still have my platforms and I still have my invites, and you know, nothing will happen. But if I win, ho-ho! Here is where the game begins. And so, I decided to run in the election, and my policies were very clear. I hid nothing from them. Number one, the Jewish people. We need to sort this problem out. This anti-Semitism that comes from the Muslim world and corrupt clerics, we need to go after the corrupt clerics. But I packaged it as the interfaith policy. Be good with everyone, Jews included. And then I had my other arguments about extremism, terrorism, and so on. And guess what? I won. Thank you. This happened January 25. Now comes talking about the future. Okay, now we understood what anti-Semitism is. You explained to us how we can combat it with the good points. You told us about yourself. Moving forward, what do we do? The real solution is not the Abraham Accords, because the Abraham Accord is political. And as you all know what the saying is, politics is dirty. It's so dirty that you can even normalize relations with Israel. That's the Islamist argument. Moving forward, we need the religious approval of the Abraham Accords. You need the Imams to come forward and say, siding with my Jewish neighbor is not a violation of my religion and does not anger my Lord. That's exactly what you need. So the Global Imams Council is currently preparing delegations throughout the Middle East to give credibility to the Abraham Accords and to call on for more Muslim countries to join. Yes, it's primarily focused on trade and tourism, but guess what? A society with Imams backing such initiatives will change. Can it really change? Yes. Look at the UAE, look at Bahrain. They embraced Jews and the Jewish homeland without changing a single verse in the Quran. Not a single hadith was banned. Not a single mosque was shut down. All what happened was the society trusted the rulers. The rulers of the UAE took a country, turned it from a desert into heaven. Why are they not going to trust them one more time? Yes, there was opposition, and there still is, even from the ruling class. There's a lot of opposition towards the Abraham Accords. But how do we solidify this bridge that is now being built? We solidify it with religious clerics coming forward. And that's what we're doing in the Global Imams Council. Because if you don't solidify it with religion, a future ruler can come and reverse all the good efforts. But if society has changed, then it becomes part of society to accept Jews, to love them. Not tolerance. I don't like the word tolerance. Yeah, I tolerate you. No, I accept you for who you are. I respect you because you are human. You're my equal. I love you because you are human and I love the humanity in you. I don't like the word tolerance. There's nothing to tolerate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to leave you with an advice. And it's an advice that I personally believe works. When presenting yourself in society, especially in the future, when hopefully our people and your people will live in total peace, focus on what is common. Believe you me, you don't need rocket science. Focus on what is common. Focus on your love and our love for God and the importance for love for life. We're a people that have been nurtured and raised to believe that life is horrible and that the end target and the main goal should be the afterlife. Focus on these two things and you will win many allies: the common religious beliefs and the love for life. In a world where COVID, you saw, people are now more focused about their lives and their health and how they can move forward. Love for life is very important. I have a message for the respected dignitaries and politicians and members who are here and who will listen to this, and those who I meet with. The problem with you, and I say this as a friend, the problem with you is that you think in 4-year and 8-year terms. You think from the start of a office term till the end of it. And in these 4 years, you wonder, what can you get done? Because you've only got 4 years. Sometimes, president or prime minister, they'll think in 8-year terms. Maybe I have another shot at it. The Islamist extremist does not think in 4-year or 8-year terms. They think 100 years from now, 200 years from now. This threat is very real. Let me tell you why. The Nazis of Germany denazified. There were many programs put in place. Germany turned into a democracy. The Nazis of the Islamist world never denazified. They never changed. In fact, they found a way to disguise themselves. The Muslim Brotherhood Charter, which Hamas is, by the way, the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, their charter calls for a global caliphate. Their logo is planet Earth with the Islamic Caliphate flag stabbed inside it. That's their logo, with 2 swords. My God, those people can show up in Gucci and Armani, right? When you think Islamic terrorist extremist, you think Osama bin Laden type beard, messy, look like a broomstick, right? They stink, their teeth are all messed up, messy, angry with the world, angry with this planet. And you're like, yeah, this guy I need to be careful from. But today, no. They come to you with the latest nice Rolex, cufflinks. What do you want? I want to express myself. Okay, yeah, come. And I'm sorry, but, I love you. White people, yeah, there's a problem here. Yeah, we went to their countries and we destroyed their countries, so they're here to express themselves. Come, please express yourself. And what does he say? The Jews, they oppress us. I mean, they don't say it this way, but that's exactly what they're saying. Took our land, took this, took that, blame everything on the Jews. The level of anti-Semitism that we see today in Canada, is no less than the level of anti-Semitism that exists in the worst areas in the Middle East. You have people in government, without mentioning names, the audacity to blame Jews for killing a journalist before an investigation has even begun. Just like that, Israel is to blame. Yeah, Israel is a nationality, but what does the Islamic extremist, what does the Canadian Muslim understand? Jews, that's what they hear when they hear Israelis, they hear Jews. When a member of government says that and points the finger at one direction, they're impacting the national security of this country. They're basically putting a target behind the back of every single Jew, that you're responsible for killing a journalist. And that is a lie. There's a video of them saying someone's down, they shot him. They shot her thinking she was an Israeli. And today, I made a tweet, it was the only tweet I made today, where the Middle East Eye posted the picture of the young Palestinian boy who was killed for being a terrorist, and they cropped out the image of him holding a gun. And they used a very old image of him when he was a young boy. Hamas issued a statement with a poster of him holding an actual machine gun, saying he's a martyr. I don't know what a boy is going to do with 72 virgins. I really don't know. I don't know. They made a poster claiming that he's one of them. The media that operates in the West and in this country decides to present him as a poor young boy who is innocent. Why did you kill him? So I called them prostitutes. That was the first time I ever used that statement. But that's exactly what they are. Cheap journalism. And they're activists rather than journalists. Holding your politicians accountable is one of the main things you can do, literally speaking. And here is one thing I want to see change: the banning of the Quds rally, the Quds march in Canada, especially in Toronto. The level of I've campaigned for that big time. Some politicians in the audience know I did. There's a serious level of threat that comes from this rally that happens in the last Friday of every Ramadan. You know why I say that so confidently? These Imams, pay attention to this, these Imams who attend the Quds March in Toronto were my classmates. Those who come out holding signs for the destruction of Jewish people were my classmates at one point. We went to class together in Iran. Today they're in Toronto, calling for my death and your death. How do we change that? We need to point the finger at those responsible and say, listen, we have allies, but we can't have this continuing. Yes, it's a democracy where they can protest. But a democracy, you see, my friend, you draw a line from dictatorship to democracy. The closer you are to democratic theory, the more of a democratic society you will be. The closest we have to a full democracy, is this bulletproof? No. The closest we have to a full democracy is Canada, America, Australia, UK. But that doesn't mean that terrorists should have incorporations in the country. And lastly, allies. And I want to conclude with this. Please do not underestimate the power of your allies. You're a people with land that was taken from you and you got it back. We're a people that fed and clothed and protected and died for a group of crooks who turned around and stabbed us in the back. The fire within us against these Hamas terrorists is no less than the fire within each and every one of you. The unity that we need to establish between our communities is so vital. The support that needs to be flowing from yours to ours and from ours to yours is so necessary. Because the single thing that threatens these extremists is that now you have Muslims. The romance between the UAE citizens and the Israelis online is something to be literally appreciated. You stare at it. You can't, really? They're saying this about us? Your home is my home? And when they get angry, they'll say, I would rather have a Jew in my home than a Palestinian. Really? It changed so fast, so quick, so clearly? Yes. Yes, we've been stabbed in the back. So do not underestimate the power of your allies, because the single threat that the extremists, the Islamists, cannot tolerate is a group of 10, 20, 50, 100 Imams who will side with you in any demonstration, while on the other side you will have a group of people with a flag for a country that doesn't exist. Right? This friendship and this connection, this bridge building, is vital, not because it's good, but for the sake of humanity, for the greater good. This is exactly what God wants. This here, Muslims, Jews, and Christians sitting together in a house of God, this is what Abraham wants to see. This is exactly what God wants, the God of Abraham. For us to be united together in solidarity against terrorism, against extremism, against fundamentalists who present themselves in liberal thobes, in liberal garbs. And that is my hope for this country and for this community and for our people and your people. And hopefully next time I see you, I see a stronger, vibrant, more united, proud community that knows how to defend itself from the extremists and the Islamists. And thank you very much for your time. Appreciate the time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. God bless. Please take a seat. Too kind, very kind of you. Thank you. We're going to have Q&A. If there's any question that you feel needs to be asked, please ask me. I'm peaceful. I won't get angry. Shoot, fire your questions, they're fine. In my speech, I stick to a topic of anti-Semitism. You don't have to do that. Feel free to ask me anything you like. Just don't ask me how many wives I have. I just have one. Okay.
So the order of the day will be, you can ask a question, you can have a rant, but just keep it under 30 seconds. I'll pick hands, but I wanted to go first.
Please. Mike.
Oh, the mic. Okay. A lot of what we're seeing lately in terms of anti-Semitism in a very acute way is happening on campus. On campuses not just in Toronto, but across North America and various other parts of the world. And some of it comes from diehard anti-Semites, but also they whom have converted to the cause. Young people who have been swayed by a lot of these arguments with which you had mentioned before. So my question to you, Imam, is what do you suggest we do or react to or try to solve the anti-Semitism that is so prevalent on campus these days?
Thank you. It's my opinion that we need to target the loudest voices. Many times the people who want to oppose anti-Semitism on campus try to avoid the people who organize it. They try to avoid the organizers. They try to pull people aside who are just, passing by. And I think this is wrong. I think we need to go straight to the person who's setting up the desk and setting up the event and say, hey, listen, I want to have a conversation with you. What's your problem, right? They'll say something like, well, there's apartheid. And then you say, really? Come, let me show you some Muslim Brotherhood in the Knesset. You see this guy? He runs the Arab coalition, right? Many people have different opinions about him, but hey, he's not white, right? Clearly not an apartheid. We just had a Muslim judge be appointed to the Supreme Court. You show these facts and you record it. It's very important because once you record it and you share it, then you amplify your message and your audience. I mean, if it goes viral, then it's you can't match. How many people attend a campus, one of these rallies? 100, 200, fine. When a video is seen 1 million times, you can ignore the 200 people. You focus on what percentage from the 2 million you have changed. I mean, what, 10% of people who watch it? That's a lot. Target the organizers with facts. With facts. Israel, you say, occupied Palestine? Great. Let me ask you a question. Who was the Palestinian president at the time? Right? Today we all know Russia invaded Ukraine, right? Who's the president of Ukraine? Mr. Zelensky. We have a name, right? Who were the army generals? We have their names. 100 years from now, I can prove it. I can tell you, these were the borders of Ukraine. This is where Russia came in from. This was the president, right? So what was the name of that poor oppressed Palestinian president who lost the country? Where were the borders? Name me a single minister. This is when they'll retreat and say, oh no, it was a Palestinian people, a region indigenous to their land. And you say, really, indigenous? Well, let's take a look at where they're indigenous from. I support the right of return, I really do. I support the Palestinian right of return to Armenia, to Turkey, right? To Italy, to Egypt. They don't belong in this land. Who are we kidding? Arabs know between us and Judea, Arabia and Judea, is the Jordan River. An end of story. These Circassians and the Romans and the Ghajar, right, and the Armenians, they left people behind. People lived here, decided to stay. If you're concerned about the establishment of a country here on these villages, I don't see you calling for the annihilation of Jordan, because many Palestinian villages were incorporated in Jordan on the other side. How come Jordan gets to stay and the Jews need to be annihilated? Then your problem is not really with wanting a country. You don't want Jewish neighbors. That's your problem. Because I tell you one thing, if the president of Israel was Jeremy Corbyn, it wouldn't have lasted 7 decades to make peace. Their problem is Jews, end of story. So I say, in a campus, go straight to the head and record it and use facts, and that will, look, you're not going to change everyone, but it will have great impact if you're concise and you know exactly what to say before they even finish their sentence. Do they have a mic or something, or just?
Let's see. There she goes. Not so far. There. Go ahead. He says, feeling the tape is okay. I feel like I'm on a daytime talk show.
Bring the stand down.
Oh, it's okay. I think it's fine. Thank you very much, Imam, my friend. My first question, whoa, that's very loud. There is a new government now in Australia, and the old government was very supportive of Israel, but the new government wants to support the creation of Palestine. How do you see dealing with these kind of situations in governments that are changing?
Okay, well, the two-state solution is not realistic. Because, look, even if someone says, but I support it, not me personally, but if someone says, let's support it, it's a good idea, the Palestinians don't want it, they want all of it. So it's not realistic. In every argument, in every negotiation, they want all of it or nothing. That's exactly what they want. So you can't convince them if they don't want it. So they don't want, so what's Australia going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to create a Palestine? There's 3 Palestines. Do you know that? Jordan is 92% Palestinian. Okay? Firstly, what is a state? A state is formed of 3 main branches. Without them, you can't have a state. 1 is the head of state, 2, economic wing, and the military. All these other ministries, Ministry of Culture, Sport, whatever, these are all not vital. You need an economy, you need a military, and a head of state. These are the 3 main pillars to establish a government. They have that in Jordan, they have that in the West Bank, and they have that in Gaza. Technically, there are 3 Palestinian states. They function as states, they have elections, they have their own economy, they get recognition from the UN, State of Palestine, recognized. Some countries accept their passport, so what? Many countries don't accept their passport, but they are recognized by many people, many countries, and many of their allies as an actual legitimate state. 3 of them. So, Australia, let me tell you, I'm Australian. Yeah. Australians like to stick their noses in roses that don't concern them. I'll put it respectfully. You know, we're far away from America and Canada, but we still want to be part of the conversation. You know, the Labour government that is now in power, I know many of them really well. When they say they want to do something, it doesn't mean now. It means the next time they win the government, not now. So rest assured, they always promise but never deliver. And they're all like that. But there's a lot of problems at home in Australia for them to focus on. And to be realistic, this talk can never happen without Washington, D.C. being involved. Australia can draft and propose and talk and say and visit and fund. It'll never happen without Washington, D.C. It'll never happen without the UK. These are facts that we know of. So it can do whatever it likes. If Washington, D.C. is not involved, can't happen.
Can I, very quick one, very quick. I had a conversation with Mayor Tory a few days ago concerning Al-Quds Day, and he said that it cannot be shut down because of free speech. However, he said, and this is an interesting new development, they are now bringing in translators at these events, because if there are messages being given that are hate messages or whatever, they now are committed, supposedly, to doing something in terms of this. I just find it an interesting sort of new twist. And on that, thank you.
Okay, well, maybe you can send him a link from memory, the Middle East Media Research Institute, for the previous rallies in Toronto, so he can see good subtitled videos that call for the annihilation of Jews, right? And if he hasn't seen them, he can see them. But I find this to be another excuse from a politician that's unacceptable, because believe you me, if a politician wanted his opposition gone, they can do it like this. There'll be an investigation somewhere, and they'll find some fraud somewhere, and then the opposition will disappear. If they really wanted to go after the extremists in the Quds rally, do you know how much fraud they have? You know how much dodgy dealings and accountants they have? If you really wanted to go, the amount of funding, the hundreds of millions of dollars that come from Iran and the Middle East, pour into these communities. If you really wanted to go after them, you could have. And that's exactly what we hold them responsible for. Thank you.
Let's see, so we did one over here, and I'll move over here. So, oh, okay.
Hi, my name is, it's very loud. Hi, my name is Nati Pressman. I'm a campus advocate for Jewish students. And so something that I've also experienced on campus, like that also David Gordon brought up, is that sometimes they don't even let us have conversations with them. When I'm a Jew, and I'm also an Israeli, when we have students on my campus who say that there's no such thing as innocent Israeli civilians. We have people on my campus who try to justify terrorism against people who are just like me and my family. And when I speak to them, and when I try to speak to them, and I say, this is wrong, this is absolutely horrific, and I share what it's like to be a Jew and how hard it is for us because of these people who make campus an unsafe place, they don't listen. They don't even give me a chance to talk. They call me an Islamophobe when I'm simply saying that Jews and Israelis don't deserve to die. So my question is, I understand that you said that we have to try having conversations with people, but what do we do when they don't even try to let us in?
Firstly, you can't be an Islamophobe if you're against the Hamas and the Palestinian cause, because the cause is not Islamic. Okay, the cause is not Islamic. If you say it's an Islamic cause, that means all Palestinians are Muslims, and they're not all Muslims. The cause cannot be Islamic, because even if they say there's a mosque there, well, guess what? That mosque is very interesting, right? They say it involves a miracle with the Holy Prophet, but the Prophet died in 632, the mosque was built in 705, 73 years difference between the Prophet and the mosque. The mosque was built by the Umayyads. It was established by the second Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, after the death of the Holy Prophet. And then it was established fully. The first prayer was ever held in the year 705 by the Umayyad dynasty. So what Islamophobia are you talking about? So Muslims themselves have not agreed on the location of that mosque. The Saudis believe it's in Saudi Arabia, because we have an actual scripture that says that the Prophet prayed in Al-Aqsa Mosque in the morning and prayed evening in Mecca. So literally a day's walking distance. So there are remains of Al-Aqsa Mosque in Saudi Arabia in an area called Al-Ju'arana. Al-Ju'arana, 29 kilometers away from Mecca. That existed during the time of the Holy Prophet. The one in Jerusalem did not exist during the time of the Holy Prophet. So how is it an Islamic cause when not all Muslims accept it and not all Palestinians are Muslim? So to begin with, you can never be an Islamophobe. That's nonsense. Now, here is a realistic solution. When people are calling for your death and people are holding you guilty, and you know that the university knows, the only realistic solution, in my opinion, is to sue them. That's the only, believe you me, because I speak from experience. I speak from experience. I had a lawyer in Australia who wanted ISIS to behead me. I complained to the Law Society, complained left and right. Nothing happened. Until today. Not a single, this happened in 2019 February. Not a single thing came back to me from the Law Society that shows there's a solution. And the lawyer is still practicing. So what did I do? I sued him. I sued him big time. And in court, not only did I prove their ideology and what they stand for, I proved my truth. This is what the legal system is there for. So what you really need, in my opinion, is to support organizations that are focused on taking extremists to court. An airline doesn't want Jews to board because they have Israeli citizenship and they're not even diplomats. Sue the airline. Thank you. See, not everyone has the ability to sue a university or to file lawsuits or proceedings. They take a lot of time and money. So what do? You support organizations that are doing that for you. And I will name an organization that I believe does phenomenal work. The Lawfare Project by Brooke Goldstein, who's a Canadian. This organization is the single most important organization fighting for Jews in this respect. And that is a front that is open. You know, the Muslim Brotherhood and these extremists, they don't believe in the laws of these countries. They believe in Sharia law, but they will use the court to shut you down if you say a single thing about them. The only way is to respond through the justice system, through the courts. And Brooke Goldstein and the Lawfare Project are phenomenal. Strongly recommend them.
So I'll swing over this way. Over here.
Hi. My name is Ina. I'm an Israeli living in Canada temporary. So there is no chance to see in Israel, so I needed to come here.
Miracles happen.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan. I follow you on Facebook for 5 years, I think. So I appreciate what you do.
Wow,
Yeah.
hang on. So you followed me from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Have you seen my change? Have you seen my development?
Yes, and this is my question.
Okay.
Actually, I have a personal question. That moment in Chabad, Sydney, when you understood that you changed, and you understood that your life will not be the same, was it like a creepy moment? How did you feel like that moment? Because it's like turning everything you knew to other life. So can you describe how, did you sleep that night?
Okay, so it's one thing that I don't like to get into a lot, but now that you've asked me, I'm going to answer you. But willingly, I would never go into it. I knew that it was going to be very expensive. I knew it was going to be very, very, it's going to be a long and lonely process. And I knew I was going to be alone. I knew I was going to lose my community. And I also knew that I will have new communities, which I do now. The Global Imams Council is the largest Sunni Shia Imams Council and the only one in the world. So, but at the time, I knew I was going to lose everything. I lost a wife, I lost a home, I lost family, lost a job, lost a community. You lose everything, and you have to start again. But this time, you start again from zero with an army of enemies against you. The thing is, it didn't all happen at once, so I had time to breathe and process and take it all in and deal with each matter on its own, case-by-case basis. But when you look back at how much sacrifice you make, you understand why many other Imams don't want to make that sacrifice, right? So, my reason to run for Vice President of the GIC is because I knew many Imams want to do what I do, and many of them agree with me, but they don't want to be in the face of it. So, in the history of Imams' councils, a single candidate has never acquired 73% of the vote. I did, for the first time. Now, what does this tell you? It tells you there are many Imams who want to do what I do, who believe in what I'm doing, but don't want to pay the price. I still don't have children. And after my divorce, I was free. I left the Grand Ayatollah Shirazi's office. I became independent. So literally, I became a free bird. And with my relations with the police, with the government officials, I had a degree of protection that whoever wanted to attack me will know that they won't be able to silence me that quickly. Yes, it was horrible, but it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and the fact that I'm standing here today, and the fact that there's been no calls for me to be impeached or removed, shows you there's a lot of support within the Imams Council and a lot of support for this type of work, and that it is respected. So I always give credit to the Jews, the Jewish people that helped me understand them better and correct my understanding of them that was wrong.
So I did this side before, right? So now I'll go back to this side. I think I did.
First of all, welcome, Imam. As a member of the board, the honorary board of DARA, Doctors Against Racism and Anti-Semitism, Dr. Imam Tawhidi is on the board of an organization that fights anti-Semitism and racism. And he alluded to the fact that we should use logic in fighting Islamists and those who argue their argument, the anti-Semitic argument. So the irony is this: in the Middle East, Israel and Judaism is being accepted. In the Gulf states, Turkey is approaching again, and so on. Whereas in the West, the enlightened West, we're seeing university students who are supposed to be supporting the so-called underdog, and in the past used to support democracy and freedom. The leftist organizations are now actually fighting on the side against democracy. The reality is that anti-Semitism on campuses, as we've seen even in the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Toronto, is tolerated by the administration. And we have gotten the message from the administration that they're afraid to act. They recognize the righteousness of fighting against anti-Semitism, but they're intimidated about the consequences of standing up to it. Logic is not going to work here. It will not, because you have ignorance of history, ignorance of reality. So how do you make administrations on campus see that it's in their interest to protect Jewish students from the same kind of fear and harassment and intimidation that is accorded to the protection that's accorded to blacks, indigenous people people of sexual orientations, and so forth and so on. How do you get administrations to recognize this and overcome their cowardice?
Thank you so much, my dear brother. I just want to clarify, I'm on my path to becoming a doctor, just not yet. So that would be Doctor of Law. And I was inspired by the incident that happened to me when an Islamist doctor when Islamist lawyer wished for ISIS to behead me. I decided to go into law. Did you hear what I said? Oh, okay. I'm a doctor to be, just not now, okay? I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, that goes under academic integrity. We have to always agree on. Now, with regards to your question, I honestly believe it's the same solution as the sister. Sue them. Well, you know why? Because it's not just about filing a complaint. You'll be surprised how many commissions and departments exist that you can complain to. If you get rejected service in a salon, you can complain to a human rights commission. There are many ways you can actually drag those responsible to a place where they are out of their comfort zone. When the university tells you they don't feel they can take action, that's because they're speaking from their comfort zone. When you drag them to a hearing in front of a human rights commission, right, and you grill them publicly on record, believe you me, most of the time it works. And you seek damages, most of the time it works. And if it doesn't work, that's when you sue. Why is the law, what's it there for? What is it there for? It's for you to regain your rights. And I say this because the situation has reached a point where we have to go through the law. Again, I speak from experience. Universities have let us down. Mayors, governors, premiers, they let us all down. And defending your rights and defending yourself is not in their interest anymore. So the only path left is for you to drag the oppressor or whoever's enabling the oppression to trial, and you will have a hearing. You know why? Because that changes. That really works. There are many solutions that don't work. You know, you can have a lobbyist, you tell them to go and work on a university, you can donate to the university and have them change their entire, attitude and narrative. It's a business at the end of the day. What do you think? Universities publishing books glorifying Islamist caliphs who took over Jerusalem, besieged Jerusalem. They named them as the revolutionary people who brought down the golden age of Islam. And why? You look, 2 months before, some Saudi oil, $20 million. And then if you do that, that's not realistic because someone else will donate, they'll flip again. Or you buy a chair, and then what happens? You're going to be one curriculum alongside many other corrupt curriculums. The only way to put an end to it is to sue them, and it works. It works wonderfully. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money, but you'll get it back if you win. And the result is permanent. That university will have to change, and it's worth it. It's worth the fight. It is worth it, because it's real. It's not fantasy. Because that person who says, I don't feel I can do anything, he's got a term. When he resigns or when he's replaced, another person will come. Right? They're not there forever. These people change. When the university is forced to enact a policy or review its policy on certain things, then that person has to follow the university policy. Otherwise, they can't be there. Thank you.
So we have time for 2 more questions. Who are the lucky 2? I see one over here. Oh, okay. Sorry, you're going to meet the microphone.
Hi, I'm Les Lightstone, and I was just wondering if you know if there are any Imams in Israel who are preaching the way you are about this subject.
Indeed, I have in our council, we have Imams in Israel. I'll give you a name. One of them, and this is the most prominent one, his name is Imam Samir Asi. His name is spelled S-A-M-I-R, Asi, A-S-I. And he's actually a senior Imam in our council. We have 6 senior Imams, 3 Shia Muslims and 3 Sunnis. There's a balance there. And he is the GIC Imam in Israel and the Holy Land, all of it. He's a prominent man, very well known to the chief rabbis, and you'll find him on the official government Twitter accounts whenever there's a incident going on. Mayors visit him in his house, and I'm a strong supporter of him for higher office. So hopefully in the future, I believe that is the next step. I believe that is the next step, and that is having a senior mufti in Israel for the Israeli Muslims, and to make sure that the mufti of the Palestinians no longer has religious legitimacy on the Muslims in Israel. Right? That is the next step. I strongly believe in it, and I'm doing everything I can, but there are some limitations in that area. But it's one thing that we need to take into consideration. If you put his name in Arabic, at least on Twitter, you'll find him speak. And in one of the recent conflicts within Israel, he actually stormed into a mosque and diffused it. The moment these fighters and rock throwers saw him approaching, they dropped everything and he began yelling at them and he diffused it. So he's actually someone that doesn't just sit in a corner but comes out. And this is the case with many of our Imams. When we issue a statement, we stand behind it. We fight for what we believe in. He has, of course, in his congregation other Imams, but we look for the fighters who don't just, state a statement and then walk back from it. So hopefully, in the future, we can increase our number, but for now, he's one of the most prominent Imams there are in Israel. So having him as senior Imam in the council is itself a big statement.
I actually thought, wow. I saw a lot of hands, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is the one that I saw. So.
Thank you. First, to start off, to help answer your question, is the Jews do donate to the universities. The key is to stop donating to the universities. All the top donors to the Islamic Republic of York University are Jewish. Stop it. Just stop it. Because if you're not going to exercise power. But my question for you, Imam Tawhidi, more Australia-based, and we'll shift focus on the different type of extremism. I'm curious, in the culture we live in, where we want to sort of tear down all the figures of Western society. Sir John A. Macdonald in Canada is a bad figure, take down Thomas Jefferson. In Australia, I wonder if the figure John Monash gets any extra attention because he's Jewish. For the crowd, he's First World War general, became the commander of the Australian Army, Jewish guy, engineer, founded basically many universities, huge figure politically, major Zionist, helped establish Israel. I want to know, in the current climate of tear-down society, you being Australian, does Monash get extra focus, or are they just trying to completely ignore?
I would rather he stay, you don't want to give them ideas, but I haven't heard anything so far about tearing down his statue at all. And I think that university remains a very prominent university. So there's no extra recognition at all. Nothing that I've ever seen or heard. My brother goes to that uni. So I really hope the statue issue doesn't spread there, even though I'm no longer living there, but yeah. Look, I'm happy to take more questions if people want to ask. Oh, yes.
Okay, well, all right. So, slight change of plans. We've got two last questions.
Please, I mean, we've got 1, 2 over here. We've
Okay.
got one lady over there. You have to keep a balance, female, male.
Yeah, back and forth, male and female. I see all the hands. We're very excited. Okay. I get it. You love him.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming here to Canada. So I am a former Syrian refugee. And my question, first of all, there's a point that I'd like to make. What you're saying about suing, using the law, absolutely right. Look up somebody called Aaron Shapiro. 1920s, he sued the richest man in the world, Henry Ford. And he won. Aaron Shapiro. So you're absolutely right. You know, the law can be on our side. Absolutely, 100%. So yes, thank you for bringing that up and saying it forcefully. My second question is that, is it at all possible to get the wider population aware of the danger that's present here? I mean, with all due respect to John Tory, who I admire a lot, we don't need translators at these demonstrations. They post what they're saying in Arabic, and I'm an Arabic speaker. I know what they're saying. And what they're saying is horrendous. The kind of rhetoric that we're hearing on the streets of Toronto, nobody says that in the Middle East anymore. They think you'd be insane if you say that in the Middle East anymore. Israelis have to die. The Jahannam al-Hamra to Israelis. Israelis have to go to hellfire, etc., etc. These were things said in the last months by people who are, supportive of the Iranian regime, and it could be back to them for we know. But is there any way at all to make the wider population aware? Because we all know this. What starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. And me, as a secular Muslim, I'm scared. I ran away as a refugee from this kind of ridiculous. The reason, I'm sorry for taking a bit long. One of the catalysts for the Abrahamic Accords was because the Gulf states saw what a mess happened from the Arab Spring. The rise of ISIS, the vacuum that happened, the failures that happened in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq. Iraq could have been a paradise. I was taught by Iraqi professors. They were the best in the Arab world. When it came to engineering, they were the best in the Arab world. We admired them so much. The honor, honestly. But these guys pose a danger. Is it possible in any way? Yes, is it possible in any way to make the wider population aware? And get them involved so that they know that they have a stake in this kind of rhetoric that's going on? Thank you.
Right. Yes, indeed. I think if we multiply our efforts, if the wider population is not aware of what's going on, that just means we're not doing enough. That's basically what it means. If we multiply our efforts, and if we are always present in these discussions, then yes, the wider population, it doesn't take much to go viral. It doesn't. You'd be surprised. Some of the thickest people on earth make it to the top places, make headlines, and you're looking, and they have nothing to contribute, but they made it. So, all what you really need is strategy. That's basically it. You have the intellectual output, you have the answers. You need strategy. As far as making, people aware, you need to know what people you want to make aware, because you want to make sure that these people have an impact. You don't just want people to hear it because their attention span is, they'll get busy with the next big headline, right? You want to make sure that the people who impact, who decide on certain decisions, are aware of what you want them, to be aware of. And as far as John Tory is concerned, he's been mentioned a lot. I don't know him personally, I've never met with him. But I really believe that the full picture is not shown to him. I think he associates himself with people who give him wrong advice, who wash down a lot of what's happening in these Quds rallies. And I think it would be a good idea, a peaceful idea, to have a massive screen outside his office with subtitles and location, right? So here's the Quds rally, here are the chants for the killing of the Jews, here's the date, right? Here's the road, and here's what they're saying. Massive screen in front of his office. I'm not telling you he's going to grab a chair and popcorn and watch, but he will be notified whether he likes it or not. It's the job of his office to tell him what's going on outside. That, in my opinion, is you taking the message to him. And no, don't do it just once. Have it there permanently. Have it there for as long as you can. Because the The way to reach a result, my brother, is not just to do something, it's to do something and make sure the person is now compelled to do something about it. I hope that answers.
Okay, we have a very eager questioner who's been very patient.
First of all, I would like to thank and appreciate the organizers for this very important debate or seminar. And I'm honored to know Imam Tawhidi. You're the second brave Imam I met, talks this way. The first one is Ahmed al-Qabanchi, and now it's you. I'm honored to know you. My question comes to this. As you mentioned, anti-Semitism is spread around strongly among the Arab and the Muslim world. It's very unfortunate. But don't you think this anti-Semitism mentioned in Quran itself? And also, the story of Khaybar tells us truthfully and strictly how the Muslim world became anti-Semitism. From this moment, as the President of Greater Toronto Kurdish House, I stand with Israeli people, I stand with Jewish people, and I stand with brave people like yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. Okay, so the Holy Quran, if you take a verse and you read it as at face value, you can derive many things from it. And that's what the extremists do. The extremists love cherry picking. Moses is mentioned in the Quran more than the Prophet Muhammad. You'd be surprised. Really? A Jewish prophet? Yes, a Jewish prophet who came with the Torah is mentioned much more than any other prophet in the Quran. Now, why don't they say that? Why don't they mention other facts, such as the land title that God gave the Jews their land? Here is the issue with these verses in the Holy Quran. The Quran speaks in terminologies. When it says, Ya Bani Israel, this is not a noun anymore, it's a terminology. So who are the Israelites? There was no social media at the time for the Quran to be revealed in one place and people in Africa would hear it. So clearly, the Jews in the region, there were 12 Jewish tribes, right? Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, and so on. They were all within that Arabian Peninsula. So whenever there's speech of Jews or Israelis in the Quran outside the context of theology and outside the context of prophethood, prophets who were mentioned, right? Outside that context, and it's strictly about dealings and contracts with them or conflict, then it only refers to the Jews of Arabia. End of story. That's as far as the Quran is concerned. Because the Quran doesn't say anything other than that. For example, the nonsense that, the end of time, Muslims believe Jews will hide behind a tree and behind a rock, and the tree will say, come Muslim, kill the Jew who's behind me, blah, blah, blah. Firstly, you know what this means? This means nature is against Jews. So why were they created in the first place if the earth and the air and the trees are all against them? It just goes against the wisdom of God. This is not in the Quran. This is my point. This itself is not in the Quran, and it's mentioned even more than the verses that they bring out. Now, let's talk about, very briefly, the verses. They speak on a local context. And the conflict of Khaybar that you mentioned, firstly, it was a slaughter of Jews. It was one of the most significant events of Jewish oppression in that region. But it wasn't Islam versus Judaism, and it wasn't Muslim versus Jews. It was the tribe of Quraysh versus the Jewish tribes. It was strictly in tribal context. So here is what exactly happened. The tribe of Quraysh, which belonged to the Prophet is a member of the tribe. He wasn't the patriarch, a member of the tribe. These tribes have allies. The allies can be Muslims and non-Muslims. And the tribe itself can have Muslims and non-Muslims. It's completely fine. They're united by blood. When these tribes ally themselves with other tribes, then they take on their friends and their enemies, because tribes have friends and enemies. The Muslims were part of a tribe, Quraysh and so on. that was at war with a particular tribe that the Jews allied themselves with. So they automatically became enemies of the Arab tribes that had Muslims in them. You see, it wasn't Islam against Judaism, and it wasn't Muslims against Jews at all, at all. It was tribes versus tribes. These tribes had Muslims in them, that tribe had Jews in it. So that doesn't tell me as a Muslim to fight a Jew. That was an event in the development of Islam. It happened, it should be condemned, right? And any calls for Jewish killing, should be condemned and fought in a very fierce manner. But the way the extremists promote it show you their lack of knowledge. When they say Khaybar, Khaybar ya Yahud, the army of Muhammad will return. There was never an army of Muhammad in that conflict. It was the tribes that were fighting. And Muhammad never had an army. Guess what? The Prophet Muhammad never had an army. The Muslims, up until Medina, Islam was revealed in Mecca. Up until Medina, there were 313 Muslims in all of their battles. Guess what? They were the same citizens and they were the same fighters. Whenever conflict would happen, they'd be summoned, and the same men who are Muslim, adherents of the religion, would jump on horses and fight. It was the army, it was the society. There was never an actual literal army during the time of, it was the same Muslims. And all of them went to war, and some of them came back, some of them didn't come back. And the context of war in our halakha, our jurisprudence, in our fiqh, is to always be defensive. You can never be offensive, at all, at all. So the way Hamas justifies it is that, well, we're still defending, it's still defensive. They started in 1948, and these guys are so backward, they think they can always be in a defensive state up until the end of time. That's not Islamic law. That's Hamas law. That's why they're not an Islamic sect. They're not an Islamic school of thought. They're an Islamist political organization. They're a militia. And when they're a militia and an organization, they have the right, well, they don't have the right, but what they do is they find themselves able to draft their own policies and their own constitutions and brainwash the other vulnerable Muslims. Muslim clergy and jurists don't accept such nonsense at all. Oh yes, sure.
Okay, so he's eager to take more questions. I see far one over. Was there one over here?
Be nice to the females, our sisters.
Of course. Sorry. Next one. I want to trip up the wire.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just wanted to say that, first of all, I want to thank my dear friend, not only a friend, my mentor. As a Jew, not only a rabbi could be my mentor, but I consider you my mentor.
Yeah, many people think I'm a rabbi, but yeah.
That's because they don't know the difference, but I come from a Muslim country, so I know the difference. He's genuinely beautiful person inside out. My family had an honor to have Imam Tawhidi to be around us and experience. What I wanted to say is that we actually have more allies among Muslims than we think. And prime example, Imam, you experienced it around my family. And I want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart. So may we always have this beautiful relationship, not only with you. And in terms of we mentioned about universities, we need more speakers like you to come to UFT in York University to educate the Awok and the young generation of young people who are consumed with this idea of apartheid Israel. Thank you very much again. Chazaku Baruch, Yashar Koach, I love you. And inshallah, we'll meet for more occasions.
Thank you.
So do you want to respond, or should I go to a question? Go to. Yeah, go to a question?
She can go on for a while. We love her, it's okay.
He says we should go on for a while. We love her. Okay, here we go. Would you mind coming to the mic? It's a bit tout.
Good evening. My name is Sargon David, and I'm privileged to be here, and want to thank you for coming. Not a question, but just an acknowledgement. Thank you for what you're doing for anti-Semitism, the education, the importance of this topic, especially as we've been discussing in a Western context in North America. I want to thank you as a member of the Assyrian Christian community. My parents are from Iraq and you're from Iraq as well. I want to thank you for your help to the Iraqi Christian Relief Council, specifically after ISIS invaded Iraq and caused so much damage to Assyrians, Yazidis, and other groups that they hate. I want to acknowledge that, and I'm so thankful that you've been invited by this synagogue, by the organization that's come here, and that we're in this beautiful sanctuary. So I just, very quickly, I want to say, I just came back from Iraq for the first time. I went for the Assyrian New Year, and I had a nice experience where I went to Al-Qush, which is a historic Assyrian town, and they have the synagogue and the Jewish area of the prophet Nahum, who we believe died in what is today called Iraq. And my people take care of the Jewish sanctuary there as a biblical prophet. They, of course, respect and revere him. Could you just perhaps, just very briefly tell us how you were able to combat some of this specific ISIS theology or philosophy that caused so much damage to the Iraqi fabric? Thank you.
Okay. I guess when you mean combat ISIS ideology, meaning the outside, I was never ISIS. Firstly, political Islam is totally different from Islam as a religion. Islam as a religion views the Holy Quran as a book that was revealed to guide. Islamists, the political Muslims, believe that it is a book suitable to govern and rule with. Right? So there are two very important distinctions we need to make. The Quran for us is a book to guide. For them it's a book to rule and govern with by the sword, if need be. For us we have many laws that prevent many things and allow many things. One of them is that you cannot initiate conflict at all. There are holy sacred months in which conflict can never occur in. You look at Hamas and ISIS and the lot, and they fight in Ramadan, in the holiest month, right? This is a violation of Islamic law. It shows you they're not Muslim, they're Islamists. An Islamist will take a verse from the Holy Quran and utilize it in their own way. And they always keep a distance away from us because we know the true meanings of these verses. We know exactly how to maneuver around them and around their narrative. Very easy for us. Look, here is exactly what it feels like, okay? You know the BHI, the Black Hebrew Israelites? It's like that. When they come and they talk to Jews, they like to run away from the rabbis. They want the Jews to believe they're Jewish, they're not really Jews, right? And they come with this nonsense. The moment there's a rabbi in the room, they run. Why? Because you know how they've taken the Bible and they've twisted it in order to set their own narrative. That's exactly how we feel when we deal with Islamists. They take the verse and they don't even know how to recite it. Here's the thing. How many people in ISIS are from Chechnya, Bosnia, right? And many other, Somalia, right? Many from Africa, India, Pakistan. These people struggle to recite the Quran. Like an Islamist, for example, like Ilhan Omar, for example, just as an example. I would dye my beard pink if she can read a page of the Quran. I dare them. Just open it and read. They don't read. You'll never hear them recite or read at all. They read the translation, but they don't know what the text actually says. And here is the problem, my brother. Extremists of all sorts, are not interested in the true meaning of what they read. They already have pre-prepared ideas, and they want what they read to fit those ideas. And it's like that with extremists in all religions and political ideologies, right? That's basically the path that I took on, and that is by clarifying what they were doing. In Iraq, I was a co-founder of a TV station, right? And an Islamic TV station that broadcast from the Holy Seminary of Karbala. And therefore, I focused on these extremists day in, day out, from within the same country. The goal was to make sure that their claims do not find legitimacy amongst the vulnerable Muslims, until, of course, as you know, the fatwa against ISIS issued by over 3,000 muftis, all Muslims. That destroyed their recruitment process of using religion and the Quran. So things like this, my brother, need to be tackled ideologically. Militarily, they've been destroyed, but their ideology still remains, but it's not as strong as it was before.
Okay, so how many more questions? I got one question, two questions, one more, and we're going to call it quits. So I think yeah, over here.
First, thank you very much for coming tonight. Glad you're here. And you've given some interesting, strong advice in certain situations, like suing the university or things like that. My question is to perhaps give advice that 2 weeks ago we had Al-Quds Day here, where we had a huge parade, and the city and province, they give lip service to the fact that you have violence being advocated on the streets of Toronto. Last week we had Al-Qaeda Day, same thing, the governing people.
The what day,
giving,
sorry? The what day?
not Al-Qaeda Day, Nakba Day.
Nakba.
Sorry, good for you.
It's similar.
Similar. Also, the leadership giving good advice, lip service, and doing nothing. So, in 7 days, on the 29th of May, the Jewish people will be celebrating Israel Day, or celebrating Israel, and it's going to be in a very limited area for protection. But already on the internet we see that the enemies of the Jewish people here in Toronto are planning all kinds of things to challenge, the word challenge in quotes, the fact that we're celebrating Israel Day. And I thought maybe you could give us some advice.
Advice other than the the law, and that you ramp up security. Perhaps I should come, huh? Maybe I should come. I don't know. Okay, entirely possible. That's entirely possible. But here is the thing: you will always have enemies of Israel. You'll always have enemies of the Jewish people, and they'll always be powerful. They will never be weaklings, okay? They'll always be powerful. And that just shows how strong you are, right? In my opinion, is to just continue. You win by not stopping. You win by not stopping. Again, here is what I always remind my Jewish friends. Jewish people are around 16 million people on this planet. Okay, I was being kind. Okay, 13 million people. I've seen studies that say anywhere from 15 to 20, but I think they're not accurate. I'm not sure. 13 million people, if I go with my dear brother Dave Gordon's number. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. For the majority of human history, up until the establishment of the modern state of Israel, there was never a government dedicated to protecting Jews. Jews were being assassinated and massacred left, right, center, everywhere they went. Secondly, Jewish people have a lot within their laws, within your laws, you have a lot of emphasis on life, and even when you defend, you make sure you only eliminate the threat, nothing more. Okay? This is very important. The very fact that the IDF has to call a building owner in Gaza, tell them to empty a building just so they don't take out any lives, and just that building alone says a lot about the Jewish people. You throw a rocket at Saudi Arabia, see if they give you a call. You know what I mean? So the fact that in your defense you're very limited legally. Then there's another issue that Jews do not proselytize. You don't invite people, you don't recruit people to Judaism. And even if someone wants to become a Jew, they have to go, I don't know, I don't want to say to hell and back because they're going to go to heaven. But it's very difficult. Very difficult. In Islam, if you want to become a Muslim, you just say 2 words, end of story. Seriously, like it's 2 phrases, 1 sentence. And that's it. You become a full practicing Muslim. All of these factors together, and plus you had the Holocaust and things like that, one would think if you put all these factors together, it is a miracle really that Jewish people still exist. Right? It's really a miracle. You know why? Because many religions disappeared because of at least one of these factors. The fact that it didn't recruit and proselytize enough. Or the fact that a government wanted them gone. Right? Or the fact that there was no one to protect them. For much of human history, the Jewish people have been victorious because of God's will. Now, with this context, you think these idiots here in Toronto are going to stop the Jewish people? Really? People much powerful than them, right? People like Hitler couldn't stop the Jewish people or stop the establishment of the State of Israel, right? They couldn't stop it. The Nazis collaborated with the Islamists in Jerusalem and their crooked mufti at the time, and they couldn't stop anything. My belief is that if you look at these people with this lens, that you know what, they're trying to stop us. Cute. They're not going to stop us. You know? Believe me, you have nothing to worry about.
Thank you, everybody. So, before we go, I just want to extend my deepest, profound thanks and gratitude to Imam Tawhidi again.
It's 2025. America's debt is over $37 trillion, and the dollar just had its worst crash since 1973. That puts your savings and your family's future at risk. That's why we trust Alpha Omega Gold, a company that stands unapologetically with Israel and supports Stand Tall Israel. Visit ao.gold/stand to claim your free precious metals wayfinder guide or call 1-855-426-4653 today. Protect your future before it's too late.